guys, welcome back to Pop Therapy. Today's post is all about sleep. As a psychologist, one of the most common complaints I hear about is difficulty getting a good night's sleep. For some of us, getting 7 to 8 hours sleep per night can be a real struggle. And when we don't get enough sleep in the longer term, this can result in negative impacts on our mental health, our physical health, our mood, and in many other areas. So in today's post, I'm going to be talking a bit about the science behind sleep, as well as some tips to help get your sleep routine back on track and to help you get a better night's sleep. Our circadian rhythms are like our internal body clock, and they run roughly to a 24-hour cycle. They're controlled through the release of melatonin, a hormone which is released through our pineal gland. Our circadian rhythms are an internal process, but they can be reset by external factors such as light. In the morning, when we're exposed to light, this suppresses the release of melatonin, which then delays the onset of sleep. So making sure that we're getting exposure to light in the mornings is really important, and having the rooms dark and light-free at night is also important to increase that production of melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone in our bodies that is most involved in sleep and wake cycles. As the sun goes down, our melatonin levels begin to rise about 1 to 3 hours before bedtime, inducing feelings of sleepiness. When we're awake and we're exposed to light, our melatonin production then ceases. Tryptophan also plays an important role in sleep. Tryptophan is an amino acid which produces a molecule called 5-HTP. 5-HTP is then used to produce serotonin and melatonin, which are important for optimum mood and sleep. Tryptophan is naturally occurring but is also found in many foods. These include foods such as poultry, chicken, turkey, dairy, milk, cheese, eggs, as well as chocolate. Experiment with increasing your consumption of tryptophan-rich foods to see if this helps with your sleep routine. Improving the quality and quantity of our sleep can have massive benefits for our mental health. Sleep hygiene involves implementing a routine that helps train our mind and body to know when it's time for sleep. Think of sleep hygiene as building a habit or a skill. Like any new habit that we're implementing, it's going to take time, repetition, and regular review of what's working and what's not to make it really stick. So remember that unfortunately sleep hygiene is not necessarily a quick fix. It's going to take time and repetition, but sticking with these tips is an important path on improving your sleep. One of the most important places to start when working at improving your sleep is establishing a regular sleep routine. That means having a clearly defined bedtime and waking time and sticking to this as closely as possible. For some of us on the weekends, we might dramatically alter our sleeping patterns, staying up late, sleeping in. We may have some days where we get up really early or days where we sleep in, and this can be really confusing for our internal body clock. So making sure that you have a clear bedtime and you aim to get to bed around that time every night is really important, as this will train your mind to associate that time with sleep. And again, making sure that you're not sleeping in excessively is really important. If you can, avoid taking naps. It can be really tempting when we're exhausted to have a sneaky afternoon nap to try and catch up on some of the sleep we've lost, but this can disrupt our sleep patterns even more. If you're really desperate for a nap, try and keep it less than 30 minutes and make sure it's before 3 p.m. But if you can, staying up is going to help you get through to a usual bedtime and get your routine back on track. Creating a pre-sleep routine is a great way to train your brain into associating that routine with becoming sleepy and getting ready for bed. Create a routine that you can repeat every night before bed, and it may start about half an hour before your bedtime. That might involve different activities that you find relaxing, such as doing some light stretching, some meditation, drinking a cup of herbal tea, having a warm bath. All of those things can be really conducive to sleep. But if you repeat that every night before bed, eventually your mind is going to associate that feeling with being tired. And on that note, before sleep, it's really important to make sure that you reduce your consumption of things like alcohol and caffeine. If you can, avoid having any caffeine after about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and make sure that you don't have too much alcohol before bedtime, as this can also disrupt our sleeping routine. If you've been lying awake for 20 minutes or more and you can't stop worrying or you can't get back to sleep, get out of bed and try again later. What can happen is when we stay in bed worrying is we start to associate bed with worrying and thinking and problem solving. We don't want bed to be about any of those things, so making sure that you're getting up, taking yourself out of bed and moving to a different room is really important to break that association between bed and worry. Go out into the lounge room, sit down quietly, avoid turning on too many lights as this may stimulate you. Pick a book or something boring that you can do in the dark, read quietly until you feel sleepy, then try and return back to bed when you feel sleepy. If the same thing happens, 20 minutes passes and you can't return back to sleep, get up again, repeat the cycle and return to bed when you're sleepy. As tedious as this feels, it's a very important step in breaking that cycle between bed and worry. Make sure your bedroom is just a place for sleeping and intimacy. Many of us have fallen to that temptation of bringing our laptops into bed, doing a little bit of work. We might read books, we might watch television shows, we might scroll through our phone. But what this does is it creates that association between being in bed and being productive or being stimulated. And you want bed to be all about relaxation. So breaking any associations between bed and work and stimulation is so important. So remember, keep your bedroom a calm and quiet place. It's got to be work-free. Do all of your reading, television, entertainment stuff out in the lounge room and use bed purely for relaxation. Other little tips you can try to make your bedroom even more relaxing are making sure that it is cool, dark, and quiet. Investing in some good quality block-out shutters can be a really good way to keep the room dark. If you're finding that light is coming in, if you live in the city, that can be a real problem. Having the bedroom at a cool temperature is also really important. If we're too hot, this can sometimes disrupt our sleep cycles. Aiming for about 18 to 21 degrees Celsius in the bedroom is really conducive to sleep. Make sure that you're getting enough exercise throughout the day. Regular exercise is really important for getting our sleep routine on track, but it's also important that we don't engage in strenuous exercise in the 4 hours right before bedtime, as this can sometimes stimulate our bodies. Getting out early for a nice morning walk can be a great way to help us wake up, get some light in, and get our sleep cycles back on track. Eating right is also really important for sleep. Making sure that we're not going to bed too hungry, but then we're also not going to bed too full either is really important. Nutrition also plays an important role in sleep. As I mentioned earlier, eating foods that are high in tryptophan can be conducive to sleep as well. If you've had a bad night's sleep, try and stick as closely to your usual daily routine, even though you feel tired and miserable. A common trap that many of us fall into is after a bad night's sleep, we might avoid our usual activities. We might stay in bed and have a lower activity level throughout the day. But that can mean that we feel less tired that night and it can disrupt our sleep cycle even further. Consider the role of negative thinking in maintaining sleep problems. What can happen when we have a terrible night's sleep and we're worried is we start to have thoughts about what it means if we haven't slept well. That might be thoughts such as, oh, I haven't had a good night's sleep. I'm not going to be able to cope with life. I've got too much on. It's going to be too hard. I won't get through it. And what can happen then is we feel anxious or stressed and then our bodies tense up and we worry and that makes it harder to get to sleep again. And again, when we feel tired, we might even reduce some of those helpful habits like exercise or doing the things we like because we feel awful and tired. It's really important though that we do those things that we usually enjoy to help get our sleep back on track. Exercising will help you reduce that tension so you can get to sleep the next night. Reminding yourself that even though you feel tired, that you'll probably get through the day and cope just fine is also really important. So making sure you're getting outside, getting exposure to light, continue to exercise and doing those important things for your mood is more likely to help you to get to sleep again that night. Give these tips a go and see if it helps improve your sleep routine. If you're still struggling to get a good night's sleep, it's really important to speak to your GP. Your GP can do a thorough physical assessment to rule out any other difficulties that might be going on and refer you to a psychologist who can help with getting your sleep routine back on track. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd love it if you could subscribe to my channel so you never miss another pop therapy post again. On that note, I'm getting kind of sleepy. Good night, guys. Bye.